Yes, we're going to go through a new board. Same plus now introduce skills and practice. Other tools on good. Let's talk a little bit about Saturday just for a minute. On Saturday, we're using private docks and private residence. We're going to be meeting right at 9 a.m. So guy come in a little bit early to make sure the camera's we're going to have about 5-10 Okay. Play the video because it has some great. Okay. Let you go.
All right, so objects do not appear the same underwater. Remember when the first day we showed Ben's light that was pink? It wasn't pink underwater, was it? Blue, because we lost the reds. So there's 4 ways that we lose light underwater. The first is refraction. So light travels in air, poking me in the neck. Light travels 1.33 times faster than light in air travels faster than in water. So you're going to get different wavelengths of the light going at different depths of water. It'll bend as it goes through the water. Have you ever kind of looked through like a glass jar? As you look through the water, everything looks kind of distorted. It's because when light hits that, it slows itself down and then it comes out different. So that's refraction. It's changed because it hits the water. Diffusion is kind of the same thing, but it's because water's heavier, there may be particles in it. It diffuses that light, right? If you shone a flashlight through a same glass of water, it's not as bright coming out the other side, right? So that's the diffusion when it's broken up. And that gets worse the deeper you go. So if you had a bigger glass of water that was going through, the less light's going to come out the other end. Turbidity is the particles, as you noticed in the pool, right? So Tuesday night, it was pretty turbid in there. There was a lot of, when we turned the lights on, what happened? Not a whole lot. You could see them close, but the further away you got, that particles. And you'll notice that at Ryrie, as we're on the surface, it'll probably be worse. So when you get down below, you won't see as much particles, but the light won't come through the particles because they'll kind of stop it. So now think of your glass of water as dirty. Shine your flashlight through it, right? Not as much light's going to come. It's going to bounce off those particles. And then absorption. So the colors change, right? We talked about in like 8th or 9th grade science that different light colors have different wavelengths. You're probably the last one to go through that. Did you talk about that in science? Different wavelengths. So there's a spectrum of light. We've got purple on one end. I can't remember what's all the way further, but as you get longer wavelengths, which are your reds, those are the first because they're longer, they're slower. You get down to the yellows, those are going to be smaller and faster. So as we go deeper, colors change. The visible light spectrum gradiates through the following colors. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So the shorter the wavelength, the better transmission. That's right, those longer waves have a lot further to go. So the faster or shorter. So this kind of goes through refraction, what we talked about, how it reflects off, different angles. Diffusion, so that's coming through the glass. I didn't know we had slides for all the different, and absorption. So that would make it a lot easier. So you see violet is shorter wavelengths. Red is the long wave, so that's slower increments. And if the video will play. Let's see, there we go. I don't know, is there sound? Maybe. I don't know that we want to hear Ben trying to get in the water or not, but no, it's just looks like a pretty rough sea going on there.
Good idea. You'll hear the dive master say, set him up, captain. Set him up on the line, and then you hear the captain yell, dive, dive, dive. Off the boat.
So it looks like partly cloudy day, pretty good sunlight hitting the water.
Boat's not on. There's no motor going on right now, so that ought to give you a pretty good idea.
Well, and the wind's pushing the boat, it looks like, from the way the flags are waving, so.
Those red fins. There's somebody attached to it.
They drag it along with them as they dive. See how vibrant the colors are? They're only, what, 6, 7 feet under the surface, maybe 10.
When it gets down a little deeper, watch the rate. Tell when my light's on it and when my light is
You kind of see that diffusion, so there's brighter spots as the waves go in and out. You see how it diffuses the light. A little bit of turbidity, you can see some of the particles. Watch. You kind of see how that orange surface marker buoy wasn't as orange. It's kind of starting to fade into a little bit more of a pink color. Or, it's kind of bland, right? There's not a lot of.
those big things, those are called barrel sponges. As you're driving along, make sure crabs and things like that. Yeah, everything's going good. I'm having fun, and I'm like,
You can see how the blue fish stand out, but the other colors aren't very vibrant. The yellow ones are, you can kind of see them. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
they're not the most friendly fish. They have teeth. We have a friend that always wears a do rag. I'll tell you what, I give 100 points to anybody that do it.
So even though there's over 100 feet of visibility there, you see how little the light does for you from the surface. Having your own flashlight.
Why you want a flashlight?
Yeah.
That's why I want you guys to see that.
Like when you're, let's say, you're 20, 30 minutes, however long you're diving, back to where the buoy is.
So on a drift dive, depends on what your plan is, right? So when we go with the dive boat, They're going to tell us this is a drift dive. You're going to dive from point A to point B. You'll surface there. You'll launch your SMB and we'll pick you up. Or is this an out and back dive? Like, are we going in somewhere and coming back to the boat? So that's all a very important part of that dive plan, right? We don't want to just go, am I supposed to come up here? Am I, you know, that's something you want to know very well before you get off the boat, right? That's part of your pre-dive briefing. Your dive guide should say, this is an out and back dive. We're going to swim up current to get out onto our dive and down current, right? You don't want to have your hardest swim to come back to the boat. So typically if it's a current dive, you're going out and back. You'll swim up current, or up current on the way out so you can float on the way back, so it's easier. But typically on a drift dive like this, that's why that dive guide's packing the dive flag. So the boat kind of knows where you're at and he'll follow you a little bit. Or if he's bored, he'll just wait until surface marker buoys come up or heads start popping up and then fly over to you. But typically that's part of that dive plan is where are we going in, where are we coming out, what's the plan there? So if you don't know the answer to that question, I wouldn't get off the boat, right? Because if you don't know, someone else doesn't know, you might have a problem. So yeah, that's part of that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Any other questions about the boat diving we just saw? Okay. All right, so turbidity, this is probably what Ryrie's going to look like a little bit. That kind of a green color. The shallower you are, the worse that's going to get, and the warmer the water gets, the worse that's going to get. If you go to places like Seattle out in the Sound during the kelp bloom, which will be about May through June, the top about 35 feet of water is so dark you can't see 2 feet in front of you. But once you get under it, the visibility is awesome if you have a light, because it's almost like black down there because none of the sun's getting through that. But turbidity is caused, I'm sure you've seen this in the river as it goes through, it gets dirtier. In the ocean, it's because of those currents. So less current probably means less turbidity. Sound. So have you noticed anything out in the water, like someone hits something, it sounds really loud and you can't tell which way it comes from, right? So you'll notice if we go out in Ryrie and there's actually boats flying around, it'll scare you the first time because that sounds like that boat's going to run you over, even if you're 60 feet underwater. So sound travels 25 times faster. You know, like sound travels faster through solids than through air. And so that's the reason why. And then it's hard to tell because we're used to living in air, right? We're used to the sounds. So we distinguish, hey, I can hear a train coming because the sound's coming from one direction. I know the speed. They call that the Doppler effect, where the train gets louder as it comes towards you. That's harder to do underwater. Now, if you probably spent 10 years underwater all the time, you'd probably get used to it. It wouldn't be as bad. But because it travels so much faster than we're used to, you can't really pin down a direction of where it's at. But if I grab my knife and I bang on my tank, you'll hear it way, way louder than you would up here. Like it's not very loud on the surface. And so we'll probably go over that a little bit tonight. When you're down under there, I'll grab something metal and bang on my tank, and it's like, holy cow, he's right next to me. And then you look around, there's no one there. So because it's denser, that's why communication doesn't really work well underwater. If you have a full face, you can yell, but it's hard to tell where they're coming from. All right, so underwater sound, we're gonna, you're gonna hear rain, storms, cracking ice. If you're ice diving, that'll scare you the first time you hear it. When you've been on the surface, when you hear those ice sheets crack and you hear that, that's really loud underwater. Marine life, whales, dolphins, other things make sounds. Surface waves, you kind of just get used to that as kind of a sloshing water. Earthquakes, I hope I'm never underwater and bad earthquake because who knows what's going on. If you ever get a chance to go to Iceland and dive, the thermal vents make a heck of a sound because all that hot gas is coming up through. It's really loud. Commercial vessels, we talked about boats. If you're over in the Sound and they're doing commercial diving, like they're pounding those big piles, I don't know if you've ever been around that just up here in the air. It's loud just being around it. But think about that 25 times faster underwater. It's really loud. Sonar, I've never actually heard sonar, but I know divers who have, and it's like that ping that you hear on the movies. It's like that, only way loud. Seismic surveys, snowmobile, I guess if you're on the ice and there's a snowmobile, you're going to hear it. Or if you do what we do, so I'm with Bingham County Search and Rescue, we do snowmobile races out on Jensen's Grove and Blackfoot for Pride Days. So we go dive for the ones that don't make it across the lake. So you could hear snowmobiles then. Usually what you get is you're riding the snowmobile out and the prop wash from the jet boat hits you in the face. All right, ocean marine life. So when we first started, we kind of talked about one of our responsibilities is to protect the environment, right? So some of the things you're going to see, coral reefs are very delicate. That's why we're working so hard on buoyancy, right? It's not just because we don't want to kick up the dirt on the bottom. If you land on a coral reef, not only could you injure yourself, especially if you're in, a shorty wetsuit and your knees hit it, but you're also going to damage those reefs. Some of those reefs take hundreds of years to come back. Soft corals can break easy. Mollusks, so crabs, things like that can get you. Ben was talking about the fish with teeth. I dive in the Sound a lot in Seattle, and they have black rockfish, and they spawn in February. And if you get anywhere near their nest, it's like a 15-pound hammer coming in. They'll knock you right in the head. They hate you being around it. So wildlife, you need to protect them, but stay out of their space so you can protect yourself, because they can swim pretty fast, and it hurts pretty good when they come hit you in the head or in the back. So some of the other things we'll see, cephalopods. So I dove, if anyone knows where the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, that's the one in the 40s that they had all that wind caught it. It actually shook itself apart and fell in Tacoma, Washington. So I was able to see an octopus that was taller than me, and his wings, he had to be 10 to 12 feet. So huge, but he was down dark. It was 110 feet of water. I mean, just dark, dark water. I haven't seen any huge squid. I've seen 2 to 3 footers, which are bigger than the ones you go and get calamari out of, but they're pretty cool. I haven't dove where there's a lot of lobster, but definitely crabs and stuff over in the Sound. I don't know what this is talking about. Yeah, maybe. Was it in the reading? Okay, so apparently I missed that page. So dorsal fin. What's the side one? Does anyone remember? Tail fins, 2. 3 is, some pectoral, yep. Okay, I don't know if that's on the test, but I can't imagine it is. But just identifying what parts are like on a jellyfish, if you know where the stingers are going to be, so you can avoid those. So it is important to know. So what are you most looking forward to seeing on your first open water dive? Like, why are you trying to do this? I'm sure it's not to see the really cool liner we've got in our swimming pool, right? Anything. So reefs, wildlife. How about you, Petra? Wildlife, fish. Is there anything in particular, like this is what I gotta see sometime before I die? Like something like bucket list type animal. Anything. Yeah. So what I would like to see close, I've seen them from about a half-mile away, is orcas up in Anacortes coming into the mouth of the Puget Sound. We got lucky enough, we were diving in Anacortes and we heard them, so we got up to the surface and we could see them, but we were never close enough to see them underwater. But that'd be pretty cool. I haven't dove with a lot of sharks because they don't like the cold water, and I dive everything that's cold. I have seen nurse sharks. So down at Sea Base in Utah, there's a little dive place there that have 2 nurse sharks you can go dive with, and pet them, swim right with them. They're not mean. So I have seen a few sharks and lots of fish. Anything else? Wrecks, caves, yeah, reefs. Yeah, reefs are definitely cool because you get to see lots of different things. Stingrays, fish, turtles. Turtles are really cool. There you go. I'm sure Ben's seen a lot more of those. He dives where it's warm in Florida, where I dive cold water. So these are a lot of the vertebrate fish. Trying to think if I've seen anything on there. Puffer fish they do have down at Sea Base in Utah as well. Clownfish. Like I said, I've seen orcas from a half-mile away. Tuna, that one, they're pretty cool, but they look scary because they're big. You know, if you got a tuna that big, they're big, fat. They look scary. They're not, but I don't know what kind of fish those are. But there's a lot of them. Oh, Santa Claus. I'm sure that was during Christmas or close to that. All right, so now potentially harmful. So stonefish and lionfish. Now lionfish in a lot of places are invasive species. So we actually spearfish them and they're really good to eat. But they've got these long spines on them. So when you get them, you have like a big PVC tube. You spear them and you stick them in there because they'll jab you. They're like a needle that's 6 inches long and they hurt. Cone shells, they're poisonous, so don't eat them. Sea urchins, I've stepped on a sea urchin. Their little spines break off in you and they hurt for a long time. It's like having 100 bee stings that you can't get them out. It was 2 weeks. Yeah. I mean, not like the first few days was really painful, but it ached. Kind of like when you get a sliver that just gets sore. Imagine 100 of those in your foot. So that's another reason we avoid being on the bottom. That's usually where sea urchins will be, is they don't usually float out in the water. Stingrays, now manta rays they don't have the stinger, but stingrays, that's what killed Steve Irwin, was a stingray. And so you be careful of that kind of wildlife. Sharks, people are killed more by cows every year than sharks, so honestly, it's not like Jaws where everything's out to kill you all day long, but sharks can be dangerous. So know where you're going, what kind of wildlife, what kind of sharks. Bull sharks, great white sharks, mako sharks, hammerheads are pretty aggressive. Bull sharks kill a lot of people because they can actually swim up rivers. So they can swim into fresh water a little bit. And so a lot of people up in the rivers will actually get attacked by the bull sharks. They can't stay there for long, but they can go up into fresh water a little bit. So if you're down in a big river like the Mississippi where it goes in, I don't know if there's sharks there, but I know the Amazon, sharks go up it quite a bit. Most bull shark attacks are actually in fresh water because no one's watching for them. But, alligators, if you go dive the rivers back east, those are fun because you get big megalodon teeth. But the alligators think either your food or the way they mate is they blow bubbles up at each other. So you're blowing bubbles, so they come after you for that. So definitely find out what kind of dangerous wildlife you may encounter before you go on a trip so that you know what to watch for and what to do. Most sharks, if they come at you, you push them away. They're more curious usually. Now, if you panic and you're flipping out, they think you're a dying fish, then they may be more aggressive. But we have classes that we teach about specific wildlife. You can take some of those if you're going to places like, hey, I want a shark dive. Probably go take a class about sharks. And there's some interviews that Ben have done with some really, really awesome shark photographers that have some tricks. So if you go on our webpage at Teach Me to Dive, he's done some really cool interviews about sharks. One lady, she grabs a shark, she dumps them on their head. I mean, she's just amazing how she can play with these sharks. And I'd be like, nah, he'd bite my arm off if I tried that. All right, so there's I think that's that's a lionfish, yeah. So they have these big wings on them, but the spines come up between the wings. And then they're also here on the back. So when we spearfish for them, we just spear them, shove them in the tube, and then use that to pull the spear out. But they look really cool. Get too close and get stabbed. They hurt. They've got a toxin in their spines that hurts really bad. That'll end your dive. You'll go up to the top. You'll have to go to the hospital, get treatment for that. Freshwater fish. That's a sturgeon. You'll see some of those here in the river in Idaho Falls, down over the, where the falls are, we dive that. They call it the West Bank. There's probably, what, 6 or 7 foot sturgeon. I know John's Hole, there's some good sized ones down there. Down by Twin Falls, if you go by Twin Falls or Pillar Falls, there's some good sized sturgeon. Channel catfish, there, you'll see them a lot. Definitely rainbow trout. These are northern pike. They have really, really sharp teeth. You don't want to get near them because they'll bite you. Freshwater eagles can be kind of dangerous, but most of the rest of them are pretty much run away from you. Yeah. All right. So, do I do this or does Ben have to do? I don't know. Some of these he has to do. He's busy, so we'll just go over it. Yeah. All right, so remove and replace scuba unit. Does anyone know why we would try and do that? Why would we ever take our BC off? Underwater while we're diving. Yeah, get wrapped up in line. You have to go over this or just, okay. I figured I was just asking them why they would do it, so.
Perfect. So, the good news is you guys can demonstrate it. Notice she's keeping a good hold on it. She doesn't want to float away, and she doesn't want it to float away.
All right, I'm going to make a few modifications to this as we go through this. So my suggestion is this. What we're going to do is when we're at depth and you're ready to take your unit off, first thing I want you to do is I want you to loosen your shoulder straps and loosen your waist strap. Okay? I don't want you to unclip that waist strap. You don't need to. If you've loosened up your shoulder straps and you loosen up that waist strap, you'll have plenty of room in there. All you need to do from that point, as once you get both those loosened, is unclip your chest strap. You'll have plenty of room, but it's still attached around you. It can't go anywhere without you. Pull your arm out, pull it around. Now, which side should I pull it? From the right side or from the left side? Why? Exactly. Yeah, you're going to want to pull it in the direction of the regulators. You pull it around this way, you're going to wrap the regulator around your neck. You don't want to do that. It's not to your advantage. So once you get it pulled around from the right side and it's in front of you, you're good to go. You can fiddle with your gauges. You can fiddle with everything else. You can figure out what's going on. You can look at it. Everything's going to be in front of you. Once you're done with that, wrap it around and get it round behind you. All you got to do is stick your arm back through at that point. At that point, connect your chest strap, tighten your waist belt because it's not unclipped. It's just been loosened. Tighten that back down and then reach down and grab your thumbs and just pull those shoulder straps down. You're done. Easy enough? Okay. At the surface, it's going to be a little different. What I'm going to have you do is you're going to release your chest straps. You're going to undo your chest strap. What you're going to do from that point out is you're going to loosen your waist strap. You're going to unclip it. You're going to grab it. And you're going to pull it down underneath your behind. Once you get that point, it's still on your shoulders. Just pull it straight down. The shoulders will come straight down below you. You're going to sit on it. All you need to do is right up cowboy, put your hands up in the air. I've tamed this wild bull. Easy enough to get it back on. Take your hands, put them through the straps, scooch off the end. What's going to happen with the BC? It's going to float right up. And if you've got your arms already through the straps, it's going to float right up to your chest. You're already on. Reach down, grab that cummerbund, cinch it around your waist, clip it around your waist. I always do the waist first. It's the most important in my opinion. From that point out, do your chest, and then finally do your shoulders. Easy enough? Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So SMB. I'm at the point I don't want to watch the videos for them doing their SMB because I disagree firmly with how they do their SMB. So I brought my own. Let's talk a little bit about some of the pieces that we have here. So the first thing you guys are going to notice is you should have a reel. A reel is definitely to your advantage because that's what keeps your, if you launch it from the depth up, that way you can get the SMB back. As the boomers will tell you, they just spent about, what were they, about $60 for the SMBs? About $60 for an SMB. So if you like replacing them every dive, you're welcome to. But if you don't want to, you're going to want to attach it to either a spool or a reel. What's the difference? Well, a spool is pretty straightforward. You put 2 fingers through it and it spools right up, right? It's nice, easy, very compact, very easy to use. I put a bungee on mine so that it doesn't ever go anywhere. A reel is more like what for a little bit more advanced diving. This is a custom one that I had that was actually made by a machine shop that makes these special for divers, so they're hard to get. But it's very slick in that it locks in place. I can literally send my SMB up, clip it, and it's locked in place because it has stopping points. So definitely a little nicer, a little heavier, a little more work, a lot more cost. A reel like this is about $300 if you can get them. The shop sells something similar to this for, what are they, David, for the Apex reels? For the Apex reels. They're right over there. They're on the thing. So I think they're about 150. So SMB. How do we inflate an SMB? As you notice, I'm kind of a big bungee person. I have bungees on everything, and there's a reason because it just makes it a lot easier for everything. So the first thing is we're down below. We're getting ready to launch our SMB at depth. We're going to take our clip. We're going to make sure that they're all nice and clipped together so that we don't lose it. We've got it on our SMB. Undo it. Find our Velcro. We're going to open that bad boy up. as well. And what you might notice, this one's obviously Nikki's. Pro tip for you, write your name on it. I do mine across the whole thing in nice big letters. Nikki likes to do hers a little smaller. Once you get all the way out, you have several different options on how to launch this. You're at depth. You've got your spool ready to go. You can, A, take your regulator mouth, take a breath, and blow into it. You can, B, take your low inflator hose, low pressure inflator hose off, and you can push it in. Or you can C, open up the bottom, and you can take either your safety second and stick it in and inflate it that way, or my preferred method. This is method number 4. If you breathe in, what happens at the end of us breathing in? We do what? Breathe out, right? You already got gas coming out of your body. You're already buoyant. You're already trimmed. Why would you want to do any crap like that? It's all coming out right here. Simple enough. And let the bubbles just flow into this nice little bottom portion. You will get a little bit more water in there, but you don't have to take your regulator mouth. Extra safety. You're not using extra gas. It's the same gas that you're already using. Make sense? You don't have the chance of going to a free flow regulator because you took a regulator, stuck it under, and let it free flow for a while. And you're not going to change your buoyancy because you're already trim. You're just breathing and doing what you're doing naturally. So that's what I'm going to encourage. I will show you how to do that in the pool. Once you get it filled up to the point where it's good and taut, and it's become a nice little Mary Poppins balloon for you, you're going to make sure that your reel is ready to go, or spool in this case, and you'll pull it down and you'll do one more good breath. So it's just about pulling you off the bottom, and once it's really pulling you off, let it go and head to the surface. The magic question that Petra's asking right now, thank you for asking that, by the way, is when should you launch an SMB? It's a question I would want to know, right? When do you guys think? When should you launch your SMB? Well, you probably wouldn't do it on emergency sync because you're more worried about getting emergency done. Oh. There's a couple of thought processes on this. I always launch mine before my direct ascent. So no matter how deep I am, when I'm getting ready, I know when I'm at about 2 minutes before I'm going to start my direct ascent, I go ahead and launch there. I don't care if I'm 200 feet, 150 feet, 30 feet. I do it there. It gives the boat extra time to figure out where the heck I am, which is definitely to my advantage because I like the boat to know where I'm at. Swimming to shore from 5 miles out is never fun. I haven't tried that yet, but I hear it sucks, so I'm gonna trust the hear it sucks idea. So it gives us extra time, gives us extra safety as well that we are able to do that. The other thing, thought process on this, as a recreational diver, typically you'll hear launch it when you get your safety stop. Nothing wrong with that at all. I don't disagree with it, and it's what I did for years as a recreational diver. I launched all my stuff at the safety stop. And the last thought is once you get to the surface, go ahead and blow that bad boy up. It's nice and easy to do at the surface. You actually don't need a reel to do it at the surface. You can just launch it. As you can see, it has a nice little clips right to you, and no big deal at all. Now, pro tip for you guys. I am a big believer in cheap bungee. I have seen these things come unrolled way too many times. It's come unrolled on me. So a cheap piece of bungee, that is not going anywhere. I can beat the heck out of Petra with it, and it's still not going to go anywhere. Same thing with a reel. You can certainly use a double ender, but the problem with a double ender is when you clip it on there and if something pushes against it, it will open that gate right up, and you'll get the opportunity to buy another reel. And that's, I think these are, what are these, about 80 bucks? 50 bucks? Yeah. Yeah, there's 200 feet of line on this one, so I don't like buying them over and over again. I have lost one. I will find that bad boy. But all you do is just take a piece of bungee, tie it through your loop. I still have a loop on there that I can use to tie off to things. And then all I've got on there is just a double ender, or not a double ender, but a bolt snap. And I just single looped that through so I can actually take it off if I need to. And the cool thing is it makes it nice and easy to get back on there with that bolt snap on there. And no matter what happens, that thing is not coming undone. So that's what I do, and that's my suggestion. We'll show you how to fill one, and I'll give you all an opportunity to fill an SMB tonight. The only course requirement is you have to be able to fill at the surface. So, does anybody not be able to blow up a balloon? Okay, good. You're all will be experts in this in a short order. All right, good news. We're at that point. If you thought we did wonderful in this class, please go on Facebook and Google and give us a review. Say you thought we did wonderful. If you thought I was a teenage heartthrob, you can put that in there. I'm just telling you. Just want to make sure that's out there. If you think we suck at this, put that on there. All I ask of anybody is to always be honest and tell us what we did. So if you would please do that. As you continue your education through this process, there are recognition levels. Your first recognition level is going to be 12 dives and 2 specialties. Science or nitrox is a specialty, absolutely, and it's one that I definitely encourage everybody to do. It's a lifetime membership to the nitrox club, and it definitely increases your safety, decreases your surface interval, increases your energy after dive, as well as increases your bottom time. So bonus, 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 bonus. So that's just me. After that, the next step after specialty diver is advanced open water diver. That's 24 divers and 4 specialties. And then finally, after that, especially after that is master diver. And with master diver, that's the highest level you can go as a recreational diver. That is 50 dives, 4 specialties, and stress and rescue. Stress and rescue is one of those courses that I highly recommend. It helps find situations that will stress you out. Helps you identify stress as well. Very psychological game. Have a lot of fun. And you guys get stressed out a little bit, and you learn what it takes to stress you out. So it's a lot of fun. If you log your dives in your MySSI app, you'll get the opportunity to get continuing education and loyalty credits as well. After your first 100 dives, you get a Century Diver. 300 dives, you're a Silver Diver. Gold for 5, Platinum for 1,000, and Platinum Pro is 5,000 dives. So I'm about 5/8 of the way to Platinum Diver. Aaron passed Platinum Diver like 5 years ago, so he sucks. It is. Just kidding. All right, tonight we are going to assemble our gear. We're going to do some neutral buoyancy stuff. We can do a front roll or giant stride or back roll entry, whichever you're more comfortable with, since we've done them both at this point. We're going to remove and replace our weight system at depth. So you had the opportunity to practice on the surface. We got that one out of the way, kind of a 2 for 1. We're going to go down to depth. I need to see you pull it out, show it to me, and put it back in until it clips, and then swim around. Easy enough? We're going to remove and replace the inflator hose. You're going to reach over your left-hand side. You're going to find that inflator hose. Pull it off, show it to me, put it back on. It's a pain in the butt. I don't like doing it, so I can honestly say that you're not going to like it either. If you like it, that's great. Good for you. We're going to do an SMB. We're going to oil inflate our BCs again, just to make sure we know how to do that. Remove and replace the Scuba unit at the surface and at depth, and then we're going to have some playtime. That ends our slides. Any questions to this point? There we go. Ken, what did you learn? Today's easy stuff, though. Perfect. Bruce, what'd you learn? Awesome. What did you like about that? Awesome. What wildlife are you hoping to see? What are you looking forward to the most? Colorful fish. I can dig that. I like colorful fish. There's a lot of different kinds out there. Petra, what'd you learn tonight? Wildlife? Sure. Do not do this. I'm going to preface my statement with do not do this. But I have a friend that her favorite thing to do, she's a dive guide, and Danielle, if you're watching, I'm sorry telling your secret. Danielle's been a good friend of ours for a long time, but she's got about 10,000 dives and an instructor all over the world kind of deal. But she likes to get a bunch of crackers and put them in her mouth or put them in her pocket just before they get down to just where they get to the reef. She pulls them out, she sticks them all in her mouth, crunches them up, and then spits them out, and all the fish come to Danielle. Don't do that. I tried it. I couldn't get it to work quite as well as she did, but Yeah, the wildlife's definitely neat. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Please be careful where you put your hands. I had a dive guide in Hawaii recently that we were doing our dive, just an easy 70-foot dive on a reef, and all of a sudden I heard and I saw the other divers going, we're ending dive, and I'm like, all right, I've been down for like 10 minutes, but okay. So I head to the surface, and what he'd done is he'd stuck his hand on the reef somewhere, and a dragon eel had come out and give him a nice little reason why you don't just put your hand in front of holes. He ended up with 5 stitches. So we had to go back to base, drop him off, get another dive guide, and continue our diving. So it was pretty funny for a guy on a boat that does leading. He was kind of wimpy about it, to be honest with you. Like, I'm like, whatever, dude. It's 5 stitches, man. Right? My kid got whacked. Oh yeah. Yeah, my son got whacked in the head with a 2x4, and he said, "Yeah, Dad, I did what you told me." He says, "I went over to the toolkit, got my super glued it right up, wiped it up, put a little everyday bacteria on it, and I went back to work for the rest of the day." So anyway, neither here nor there. So my favorite thing to see is eels and nudibranches and coral shrimp. Those I like the little stuff, and I also like mantis shrimp. And mantis shrimp come in a lot of different colors and shapes. Be aware, the little mantis shrimp, because they come out of their hole, they have enough punch in their little manta claws that when they punch out, they can shoot faster and more powerful than a .22 rifle. They can actually break glass. So don't put your hand in front of the mantis shrimp. But they're very cool to come out and see them. The other thing was really cool. We were in Hawaii doing a ledge, not a ledge, but a decline. And when we were probably 120 feet away, we could see the garden eels. And you always see the garden eels from a distance, and they're very, very, very sensitive, right? And we got right up to them, and they went back in their little holes. And what I did is I took my GoPro, I stuck it in the sand, I put a rock underneath, and I put a rock over top of it, and left it running. And then we swam off for about 20 minutes. And it was pretty awesome in that in the video, you can see where we kind of take off, and I've sped it up a little bit, and then you start seeing the garden eels come out. And they got about this tall, and then all of a sudden you could hear the whale sounds. It was super awesome because the garden eels turned out, they got about that tall. They were about 5 feet tall, and they were dancing to the whale songs. It was really, really neat. It was a very cool video. It's one of my favorite videos, oddly enough. But there's all kinds of cool little things to see. The ocean's teeming and interesting with life. On that same dive, we were coming back, and coming up this hill, we were probably at about 120, 130, somewhere around there, coming up, and I saw something kind of move across, and I went over, and it was an octopus about like, his head was probably about this big, and so he was probably like that. And so I moved one rock to see him better, and he went over to the other rock, and we checked him out, and he didn't hide real well in the next one, but he kind of looked up at us, and we looked at him, and he didn't look very happy about that, so I got some pictures, and I took off and left him alone. And then we came up to about 50 feet, and I saw something. I mean, it was like, zoom. What was that? Look, and I kind of replayed in my mind. I was like, that looked like an octopus, and it was just a little one. And so he got into this rock, and so I moved the rock out of the way, but there was some sediment and some sand up in front of him, so I was doing this to kind of move it, because I just want to see him, right? It was molesting the wildlife. Shouldn't be doing that, right? Bad, bad, bad. But all of a sudden, he didn't like that, and all of a sudden, poof, he inked enough to cover from there to here. It was a lot of freaking ink. And then all of a sudden, there was a second poof, and it filled up that space even more. And I didn't see him, but my wife said on the second one, he went poof, poof, and then he darted off, and he was a fast little booger. So there's all kinds of cool stuff. If you keep your eyes open, one of the things that we notice when we're diving is Nikki and I are always, first one's off the boat, very last one's on the boat. We tell the dive master, hey, don't worry about us, we got this. We'll show up at the boat at some time. You've told us where it's going to be. We've got SMBs. We're good. Just you guys, you watch after the kids. We'll do our thing. And so we focus on this square foot of ocean, and we see what we can see. There's been more than once where we've dropped in on a big 6-foot stingray, and everybody else was too busy looking ahead of them, and we're like, okay. And so we checked her out and did our thing. But we'll usually get back to the boat because we do that. We go very slow and we focus on everything. We'll hear something. I saw an eel. Oh yeah, I saw one turtle. Oh yeah, I saw this. And we were like, well, we saw 6 turtles, 12 eels, 3 sharks, about a dozen or so coral shrimp. Yeah, it was a good dive. And they're like, yeah, how'd you see so much? And I says, well, we weren't sorry to see a whole dang ocean in one freaking dive. So it's a big ocean. Focus on what's in front of you. Take your time. Make sense, guys? Awesome. Perfect, perfect. We have the final exam. I know you guys are super excited. All right, if you guys would, if you have a pencil or pen in your hand, please put it away. I will not give you a test if you have a pencil or pen in your hand.